Warning! This podcast contains spoilers. We'll be discussing plot points through the entirety of Code Lyoko and may refer to the novels, video games, comics, and the live-action Code Lyoko evolution. So, if you don't already know what kind of genius Odd is, or whether candy really can fix a broken heart, you're about to find out! Here we are, going far to podcast all that we love. Hello everyone and welcome back to A Podcast Without Danger, where we will be returning to the past week by week to rewatch and review every episode of Code Lyoko, the 2003 animated series created by Thomas Roman and Tanya Palumbo. Let's get ready to virtualize as we go through the warm fuzzy moments, near-death experiences, and incredibly silly jokes from this weird and wonderful show. I'm souljelly, and stepping into the scanners with me, as always, my wonderful co-hosts, my fellow Lyoko warriors, Quitter10 and Dianna, with two N's. How's it going?
It's
pretty
going.
good.
Yeah. We're all a little tired, it's that time of year, but it's fine. I mean, this is a pretty important milestone in the fandom. It's Pick on Yumi week.
Yeah. The beginning of...
Wonderful.
5 episodes full of nothing but torture for Yumi.
Oh, it's such a fascinating phenomenon that the whole fandom has kind of latched onto this. For the viewers listening at home who might not have heard of this before, the next 5 episodes or so have a real focus on Yumi in particular, just being totally victimized by Xana and having all sorts of bad luck. And it's something that the fandom has named Pick on Yumi Week, and it's kind of a little bit of just a phenomenon in Code Lyoko fandom culture. Everyone's just oh, cool dilemma, it's the start of Pick on Yumi Week. It's like a thing, it's like a little event. It's kind of weird, but it's funny. Any initial thoughts on this episode?
I mean, it was definitely very unique.
Yeah, it really was. I also forgot that this was the one with the bulldozers.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I know, I remember the basic premise of it, what the plot, but I just forgot that the bulldozers was the attack for some reason. I don't know, some of the season 1 episodes I get confused, between.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like they don't necessarily link very clearly together. I had a similar notion. I was like, oh, it's the bulldozer attack episode. But yeah. I like this one. I was pretty pleased to be doing this. I think it's a good palate cleanser after Big Bug. Because, that was a weird time. More world building, more character moments. A pretty fun Xano attack and some good Earth action scenes.
Yeah. Very solid.
Yeah, pretty solid. Shall we get on to the recap?
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, well, this one starts with Principal Jean-Pierre Delmas announcing the construction of a brand new sports facility on campus. The bulldozers are all set and ready to go, with absolutely nothing awful about to happen with those. No, sir, not at all. The students are bored by JP's lecture, as you'd expect, and Yumi, Odd, and Ulrich note that Jeremy isn't there, because, of course, he is, to quote Odd, glued to a computer screen in a big cyber conversation with his darling Aelita, to which Yumi gives a fond smile, which is such a cute shot, the way she kind of looks over, and I kind of figured she was looking at Ulrich here, but I don't know.
No, I was thinking the same thing, that she was looking at Ulrich, but who knows?
Yeah, I did too. It was just a really odd little shot to kind of end that scene with.
My kind of speculation was she was thinking about Jeremy and Lita and kind of looking over at Ulrich and being I kind of want what they have with him. I know that's a bit of a leap, but that's kind of what I figured they were going for.
It does make sense.
No, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that analysis definitely being the case.
Yeah. Also, I could be wrong, but is this the first time that they call him Einstein?
Maybe. It could be, actually.
That's a good question.
It really jumped out at me as I hadn't heard that in a while, but I could be completely wrong, so...
I think it is. I mean, I definitely don't remember it from the first 5 episodes, at least.
Huh, neat. That's a fun little detail. So, yeah, cut to Jeremy's room, and he's munching away on some candy while working on the materialization program, which he calls the devisualization program here.
Yeah.
I guess it's more or less the same thing. And then we get my favourite Chilita moment this episode, which she, like, escalates this conversation from 0 to 100 real quick. So I'm just going to say the exact dialogue. So Jeremy's talking about all the progress he's made on this program, and Alita's like, honestly, it's so hard to imagine. We can be face to face in the same room. We can touch each other, even kiss. And Jeremy's just like,
I love that. I love that so much. I love that here she is. She has little to no knowledge of Earth other than what she's researched on the internet. And she has this profound attachment to Jeremy to the point where she's like, let's kiss.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's so sweet. And I think we definitely see a change in Aelita's character over the series. Like, she kind of becomes a lot more assertive and confident and sassy as things go on. But this is like a little bit of foreshadowing that she has that assertiveness, you know, like from the start. Like, she does know what she's kind of soft and sweet and kind of more reserved, but she still knows what she wants. Good for her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Love that little exchange.
Yeah, it is really sweet. In the script, it says that after, like, Aelita says that and Jeremy is all stuttery, it says, oh my god. Finally, he goes back to work, determined not to give in to his emotions.
Oh, Jeremy! That's so cute. Yeah. I mean, oh, so cute. Jeremy blushes and stammers and quickly changes the subject and gets down to business, starting the test program. He waits with bated breath, but the program fails to load. Another wave of disappointment, and Jeremy expresses his doubt that he's good enough. He thinks he's not up to the task. And with that, he decides to go and take a little break, stretch his legs, etc. And then we get an Odd Delagobia title card. Cut to Odd, who peeks into Jeremy's empty room and sits down at his desk, which I love. I really like this easy familiarity that they have here. Jeremy and Odd get some really good scenes this episode, like some good dialogue with them.
Yeah, they really do.
So yeah, he sits down at the desk, he's like, ooh, candy! Takes a bite, and then Jeremy returns, startling him, causing Odd to scatter the candy all over the keyboard. Jeremy tells him off. The keyboard is incredibly sensitive, but in a really mega insane turn of events, Odd's scattered candy has typed in the exact bit of code that Jeremy needed to make the program work. And I'm sure the instant that we put this under a microscope, it is going to fall apart, because, like, how does... Like, I've never known a program to work that way. Like, why could he not just, like, copy and paste whatever was typed into the window and be like, oh, that's the code, I've got it.
Yeah, I don't know, because the glimpse that we get of the interface that he's working on doesn't really make much sense, because it ends up always focusing back on that model of Aelita, like deconstructing it and reconstructing it. So we're not gonna ever know as the viewer how exactly the code works. Maybe it was an instance where, like, there was no way he could copy and paste it, because it looked like as soon as the candy hit the keys, that instigated a process. I could be wrong. I think Jeremy typed something. And then the process worked, we find out. Which is another thing, because, like, and I know it's not that deep, but how can the candy hitting the keyboard, like, that doesn't make any sense. How does the candy hitting the keyboard in, like, X sequence make the program work?
Like, normally I can do some mental gymnastics and try and justify stuff, but I had a hard time with this one. And I really like this episode, and I'm definitely, like, kind of just willing to suspend my disbelief for this, because, you know, it's fine. It kind of sets in place, like, the conflict at the end of the episode, and it's, you know, it's whatever. We get there however we get there. But yeah, this one was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a computer scientist, but I am skeptical about that actually playing out realistically.
Right, like, I like this episode too, but I just feel like that this particular scene was a little bit of a leap.
Yeah. pretty much.
For sure.
Like, it was definitely for the plot.
Yeah.
No, yeah, totally.
No doubt. Oh well, it's not that deep, which is definitely our unofficial tagline for A Podcast Without Danger.
Yeah, pretty much. But it is really cute how like Jeremy celebrates when he sees that it worked.
Yeah, I love this whole little bit, this whole exchange with Ard, where he's like previously called him a creep, and now he's like, I'm a genius, you're a genius, and Ard's like, am I a creep or a genius? You're a creepy genius, which is just really funny to me.
I know, I love that.
It's really cute.
Such a good line. So Jeremy only has one shot to launch this program, and obviously nothing's going to go wrong here at all. Ulrich's turn, title card. The gang's in Jeremy's room discussing their plan of action. Yumi has reservations about materializing Aelita straight away. There's lots of preparations needed, she says. Not just to do with the transfer itself, but in terms of creating a space for Aelita in the real world. As the Ard, Ulrich, and Yumi point out, Aelita has no parents or birth certificate. She essentially doesn't exist. Go for it, Dianna. Take it away.
Yeah, so my thing is, I love how everybody just automatically brings Jeremy back down to reality. We all know that his ultimate goal is to bring his waifu to laifu. I can't believe I just said that out loud. I hate myself for it.
Nice one.
But that's his end goal. Immediately, Yumi has the passive suggestion of putting her up at her house with her parents. And, like, I just want to know, how long does she think that can go on? Because Aelita's going to need somewhere to stay permanently. And then I love that we just switched to Ulrich being like, oh yeah, hack into the city hall, create her a fake identity. Hello?
Just casually commit this massive crime, Jeremy, you know.
Fraud.
I love it. Oh, yeah. And, like, let's be real, Jeremy would, and proceeds to do so multiple times from this point, but still, just the casualness. I feel like it's a very sweetly naive view of the world, and you kind of remember at this point that they are just kids, you know? It's like, oh, we can just make it a fake thing. I don't think any of them thought about that as, like, a crime for, like, a second, you know?
No, especially because Jeremy, like, that goes on his list of cybercrimes.
Oh, 100%. We are adding that to the tally, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess my thoughts on this was that they always saw the Ishiyama's house as a short-term stay, and they were always planning to enroll her as a boarder at Caddick. It seemed that, because that seems like the obvious choice, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, here's a school she can literally live in.
I think they do that. I mean, they do end up doing so.
Yeah. It's just weird that isn't kind of the first like instance of, oh, we'll just bring her straight there. But, you know,
right.
It gives
and
us...
to a point, I kind of understand that because Aelita would be coming fresh out of nowhere, which Odd mentions in this whole like exchange that they're having. And she really has no idea about anything having to do with Earth. And in my brain, it makes sense to temporarily have her stay with Yumi specifically because Yumi stays off campus. She's also a girl. Like, she can kind of guide Aelita through, you know, normal mundane life things without just sticking her in a room by herself at Caddick.
Yeah. Actually, that makes perfect sense. Now that you spelled it out, yeah, it's a bit of a buffer zone between, like, the real world and, like, intense socialization and all these interactions. It's just kind of a quieter space for her to find her feet in, I guess. Yeah. Big ambitions for the gang there, but, yeah, Jeremy is brought back to Earth, which is pretty reasonable. But, poor dude. She'll get there, don't worry. Hang in there, Jeremy. Only, like, 20-odd more episodes to go.
Yeah, literally. 20 more episodes.
Cut to nighttime. Jeremy can't sleep, so he gets online. And there's an interesting bit of dialogue here because Jeremy asks Aelita if she's asleep, and she says, virtual beings never sleep. And the thing with that
really
is,
cute.
it was really cute. But also, she has been knocked unconscious before and materialised to Lyoko while unconscious, which I think happened in the episode Mr. Puck. So I guess it's just one of those little, like, relics of the season 1 where Aelita was meant to be an AI all along, that kind of, you know, got retconned later on when she turned out to be human. But it kind of just amused me because, you know, I think that could have been a fun bit of foreshadowing that, hey, maybe she was a real person if they'd like handled it a little bit differently, or like if things had played out a bit differently. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
But also,
know. Sorry, go
on.
ahead. I don't know. I mean, it's very. We're never gonna know because they changed the whole series Bible between seasons 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. It was a significant shift for sure. And she does talk a little bit later on. This is actually one of my favourite character details about Alita. In Code Earth and False Start, she talks about how sleeping is such a novelty for her and she really enjoys it. So it's kind of nice how these two episodes link up in that way. It's really cute.
Yeah.
So Jeremy's excited to share all the things Alita's going to discover about Earth. Meanwhile, as it is the dead of night, the staff and students of Carrick are fast asleep, which means it's time for Xana to come out and party. We see bulldozers out on the school playing field and Xana smoke pouring into them from a nearby floodlight. The bulldozers head into action. Back in, Quitter, go for it.
I mean, figure since we've got quite a bit of time, let's see. I'm just gonna read out real quick the way the script like frames this whole thing.
Yes, please.
So it says, exterior stadium, which is like the field, at night. The construction machines seem to sleep under the pale light of the street lamps. The camera frames one of them. Suddenly, a dark spectre springs from it over the two sleeping bulldozers, surrounding them with an eerie halo. Immediately their headlights come on and their engines start to purr. Then one towards the other, the two bulldozers begin to roll slowly towards the park.
Oh, I love that. You know what would be really cool? A full novelization of the series written by the people who wrote the script.
Nice.
Yeah, because they just write so well. It's got a real, like, such, like, character to the writing, you know? Yeah, no, that's great. I enjoy that scene. And also, it's kind of nice that this is set at night. It's a bit of a different...
First attack at
view of
night.
things. Yeah, and one of the very few in the series, I think. I don't think there's too many that are set at night.
There's this one, there's Plagued, Is Anybody Out There, and Attack of the Zombies, I think. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Well, Uncharted Territory 2, kind of.
Yeah, true.
Even though that wasn't necessarily an attack, like the climax of the episode is at night because Yumi has to sneak out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we kind of see it the here and there through the series. It's kind of a nice novelty when it pops up. Meanwhile, Jeremy's going over some Earth basics with Alita, like how when you touch something, you might feel softness, heat, etc., which segues into some fun Lyoko lore drops here. I still can't really quite wrap my head around how it feels to be in Lyoko. Is it basically like being in a sensory deprivation tank, except you can like see and hear, and you can't really experience anything else?
Maybe. I'm not sure how like the whole like feeling in the Lyoko thing works.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
when
either,
they
especially because like they get hit when they get hit by a monster, like they act like they're in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes,
right?
Yeah. I guess they're just like, you know, inhibited. The pain receptors, the nociceptors, just not completely, suppressed. I don't know. This could be like, well, actually, give me like 4 more years in med school, and I'll probably be able to.
I'll hold you to that. Watch the space, folks. 4 years time. Oh. But yeah, no, it's fun. Another thing I'm thinking about, just because Yumi kind of falls from a great height later on as she falls into the digital sea, or digital void. Yeah, I know, right? I warned you at the start of the episode, there will be spoilers. But no, like, does she get that, like, tummy flip when you, like, fall from, like, a great height, you know? I was like,
That's a good question.
Probably. And it's like, that's definitely more like a brain reaction, so...
Yeah,
I was going to ask, is that a psychological thing? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, just interesting. I mean, I know a lot of it's like plot, and like from a fic writing perspective, it's like, what do I write on Lyoko? Like, you know.
You just make it up, really.
Yeah, you know, whatever works in the moment. Their conversation is cut short as Alita senses something on Lyoko, and Jeremy hears a noise outside. possibly the quickest detection of a Xana attack ever. I mean, he's pretty on it.
Yeah, the minute like Xana saw that, hey, Alita might actually escape, it just went full in.
Yeah,
well, it's a good
100%.
thing he was awake.
That's true. Oh my gosh! Imagine that. Yeah, imagine. Wait, it's a good thing Jeremy was awake or Xana was awake.
Jeremy.
Oh, okay.
Because he couldn't sleep.
I don't know. Yeah, for sure. It all kind of like worked out pretty well. A pretty timely coincidence on Jeremy's part. I was thinking like we don't really know if like Xana like quote unquote like sleeps or goes into stasis, but imagine it kind of comes out of like whatever nap like state it's in, and it's like, oh wait, shit, Alita's gone. I like slept through the whole thing.
Oh, that would be. It'd make the series a whole lot shorter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Oh, anyway. Jeremy goes to wake the others. And we have a great bit of dialogue here that I just want to highlight. Jeremy comes into Odd and Ulrich's room like, wake up, Odd, wake up, Xana's attacking. Odd's like, what? What do you say about carpet hacking? So stupid.
Also, Jeremy just like yells.
Oh, yeah.
Screaming. It's like, dude, people in Australia can probably hear you. Just yell a little bit louder.
Okay, yell your secret about Xana or whatever, like, all the way across this hallway.
Like, they're in a dorm room. You can hear everything in dorms. Like, everything.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that amused me as well. And it will not be the first time they speak way too loudly about Xana stuff. Not by a long shot.
Definitely not.
Ulrich won't wake up at first, and this is when we find out that he wears earplugs to deal with Odd snoring. Which is also a fun, cute detail. Possible spin-off idea, a series of shorts about Odd and Ulrich and just their domestic life as roommates at Caddock.
Yes. I'm here for it.
Yeah, just like 10 minutes of like whatever random scenario. Like, I'd watch so many of those.
Same.
Oh, right, scene change with an Odd de la Robbia title card. The bulldozers head across the school grounds, and Ulrich and Odd attempt to stop them by climbing inside, but they cannot get control. Jeremy calls Yumi, who's also asleep and struggling to wake up. Odd heads to the factory, which happens to be where Xana is heading to. If it destroys the supercomputer and the scanners, the gang can't fight back on Lyoko. Virtualization montage. Odd meets Alita in the, wait for it, forest sector! We're not in the desert anymore, yay!
Thank goodness. I mean, 4 out of 5 episodes was a bit too much.
Yeah, for sure.
I just really love the forest
Lyoko
sector
scenes.
in season 1.
Oh, it's so gorgeous. It's literally, like, beautiful.
It is beautiful.
So we have a little bit of banter between Odd and Alita, and they head to the tower. Meanwhile, Ulrich is stuck inside the bulldozer, which crashes and knocks him out cold. Also, my other thought on watching this was it must be so stressful hearing someone in danger go silent on the other end of the line. Because obviously as viewers, like, we watch it and we obviously see the cuts between the factory and whatever other Earth location and Lyoko. And, like, they have maybe a phone line or maybe Jeremy through the speakers. And they don't know anything that's going on, like, on the other side of things. That must be so stressful.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, dealing with that. But Jeremy is pretty calm about it for the most part. Kind of.
Yeah. No, he's fairly chill this episode. I guess there's not really that much else he can do. It would be unproductive of him to kind of be losing his shit. But yeah, no, he really keeps it together. To be fair, so does Yumi. MVP this episode, honestly.
1,000,000%. I'd also like to ask, what were they gonna do with, like, they don't know how to drive a bulldozer, so what the hell was Odd and Ulrich's plan?
Oh, I have that in my notes too.
I mean, I guess, like, you could just steer it in a different direction, right? Like, how hard could it be?
Well, and crash it against a tree.
Right, and I get that it's adrenaline. Like, what else are they gonna do? They're gonna try and stop it. But realistically, there's no plan.
Yeah.
They're just gonna, like, jump in and see what happens. Like, what did they expect was going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess they didn't have time to go and get their wire cutters to hotwire the car or whatever, the bulldozer or whatever, which would have been a choice if they'd been able to. Off the top of my head, that's the only other.
We also cut to Odd telling Ulrich that Xana's controlling the bulldozers, and I'm like, yeah, and?
No, really. They just decided to go, like,
Hello?
they just spontaneously decided to get up and go for a joyride.
Would that not be a completely wild episode where something like that is happening and they think that is the Xana attack, and then it's like, oh no, Xana's doing something completely different somewhere else.
New episode idea.
Yes.
That would be pretty wild.
Fanfic creators, get on it, please. So Yumi heads off in search of Ulrich, and on Lyoko, Odd and Aelita follow the pulsations and are set upon by Xana's monsters.
Yeah.
Which have a different name this episode, interestingly.
Roachsters.
We don't have Kankolats. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Roachsters.
Yeah.
It's much more difficult to say, and also it just does not... It's not got the same... I don't know. It's not as snazzy.
Yeah.
No, and is this the only time that they're ever called Roachsters?
I think there's a couple more episodes, but the script still says Kankolats. I mean, the original French script.
That's weird.
It's so weird. Is there any correlation between episodes where they're called Roachsters and the Digital Sea is called the Digital Void?
I have no idea.
I figure it's possible. But yeah, some interesting dialogue choices this time around. I wonder what happened there.
But yeah, 5 Kankolats.
Maybe it's a writer.
Maybe.
Yeah. I also like this bit of Lyoko lore, which is like just a throwaway line, but like the fact that Kankolats usually move in groups of 5, it kind of like makes them anthropomorphizes them, or like, kind of makes them a bit more animal-like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they're definitely uncanny and obviously like monster-like and otherworldly, but like we do see now and then that they also are a little bit animalistic, and it's kind of neat to just have those reminders that, that is what they are. They're like creatures. They're not just like robots, they're a bit more organic.
Yeah. I mean, they're incredibly stupid, but...
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the dumbest of the dumb when it comes to monsters, but like it's definitely interesting to have that humanization of them and that lore, and we get a little bit of lore in a couple minutes too with Odd, with his laser arrows.
Yeah,
Did you
for
guys
sure.
notice?
Do you want... Is this... go on, remind me, because I don't think I have this.
Jeremy notes that Odd has 10 arrows.
Oh, yeah, the reload. That is the first time it's mentioned. You're right.
But,
this
must be like a retcon thing, like later in the series, because later in the series he has like an absurd amount, and Jeremy is like, how did you run out? I just refilled it. Like, you have like something 1,000 arrows or whatever, but in this episode he makes a point to say you have 3 or 4 arrows left.
4 arrows left. And
it's 4, and then it goes down to 3 because he's like 3 arrows, 3 Kankolats or roasters, whatever.
He's got 10 in season 1, and then like beginning from season 2, he's got a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Jeremy found the glitch, the code for the infinite arrows glitch, and just decided to mega upgrade Odd. Yeah, I'm kind of not a fan of that as a device in media, where you have like an archer character or like, some kind of missile weapon, and it's like, we only have so many left, and it kind of becomes pretty arbitrary. Like, if they'd stuck to that limitation, then it could have been really cool, but it's just like, oh well, the plot demands it, so...
Yeah, I think this is the only time that is mentioned. I mean, it's mentioned that he needs a reload again later in the series when he's like run out of his absurd amount of arrows, but this is the only time that it's specifically mentioned he has X out of 10 left.
Yeah, for sure. It's yeah, it's kind of one of those weird... I guess it's probably also one of those like early ideas of like, maybe we're going to do something with this, and then it kind of ends up being dropped. But yeah.
All right.
Although I do love Odd and Jeremy snarking at each other here. So Odd does these amazing... He does like his acrobatics when he's dodging all the laser
really
fire
cool.
from the Kankolats.
And like,
really
remember
cool.
that like this was so in season 1, like it was so, how do you call it? Like green screen,
Motion
right?
capture.
Yeah, motion capture.
Yeah, so this was like a person doing this.
Yeah.
Oh. What I
Like-
wouldn't give for the behind the scenes footage of someone in a like whatever suit, like spandex suit with like those nodes attached and they're just flipping around. That'd be so cool to see.
Yeah, it would really be cool. I've seen like images of them of like how they do motion capture, but I don't think I've ever seen a video clip of it in action. And for Code Lyoko specifically, that would be really neat to see because like the moves in season 1 do look more like fluid and human, but then in season 2 they're able to do a lot more intricate things like Yumi's spinning top attack and like her 1,000 backflips that she does, which like is not something they could have probably done with season 1 unless they spent a lot on editing.
Agree.
Yeah. It was a trade-off, I guess, for sure. I think I would have been perfectly happy with the motion capture staying. But then again, I don't know, Yumi's flips are pretty iconic.
Yeah.
So maybe it's for the best.
It would have been interesting.
Oh, yeah, just kind of neat to see that difference. But no, great Lyoko stuff this episode. I really enjoyed it. So, meanwhile, on Earth, in an absolute power move, Yumi swings down the factory's upper level on a rope to rescue Ulrich from a moving bulldozer. Oh my god, she's so cool. I love her so much.
Oh my god.
Oh, also, props to Yumi's voice actress here because the panic in her voice when she sees Ulrich, it's so tangible. Like, literally, just like, oh, you can, like, see that despair.
Yeah, she does great.
Yeah.
Oh, MVP. Yeah, and the way she ducks and rolls out of this like moving vehicle as well. Oh, so good. I love it. Chef's kiss emoji.
Yeah.
Also, there's a weird continuity error here where 1 second Ulrich's like unconscious and then he's like running upright alongside Yumi and then he's unconscious
Just again, right?
Yeah.
Do you want me to like read the script for this part? I mean, it's really interesting.
Oh yes, please.
Just to,
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we begin with interior factory, cathedral room, it's called, Salle Cathédrale, and at night. So Yumi enters the cathedral room of the factory and stops, amazed by the sight. In the light of the headlights, the two metal monsters violently collide with walls and columns. Some walls are already underground, crumbled. Others are collapsing, along with large chunks of the ceiling. Suddenly, she freezes in fear when she sees Ulrich's arm protruding, inert, from the broken window of one of the bulldozers. She sighs to give herself courage, then rushes towards the construction machine. And then there's like Lyoko action. I mean, it's cool description, but blah blah blah. Odd kills the Cancrelat. Odd gets hit. Jeremy's like, Odd, watch out, you dumbass. And then Odd's like, I'd love to see you here. I mean, no, he doesn't say dumbass.
I love that bit.
No, I know, but
in the show, it's like, oh, you're supposed to save Aelita, you know, or whatever, which is just, either way, it's so funny, I love it.
But then Odd's like, you want to trade places, Jeremy?
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because Jeremy doesn't know shit about fighting on Lyoko. He just sits there and he's the computer guy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Alright, so now we're back with Yumi after, like, Odd says, I mean, Jeremy is, Odd, watch out, you only have 80 life points left. And then Odd says, I'd like to see you here. And just as he finishes saying that, he gets hit again and his life bar drops another notch. Jeremy shakes his head, looking worried. Then we go back to Yumi, where it says, dodging the falling rocks and the two bulldozers with agility, Yumi manages to jump onto Ulrich's bulldozer and sticks her head through the broken window. She grabs her friend and shakes him vigorously. Ulrich, she screams. Ulrich's eyelids flicker for a moment, but don't open. But that's enough for Yumi to know he's alive, and she breathes a sigh of relief. She then looks through the windshield and sees the wall approaching. Quickly, she then shoves herself into the cabin through the broken window and clings on while protecting her friend to take the shock. The bulldozer hits the wall. The windshield shatters on impact. Yumi, who is protecting Ulrich with her body, is violently shaken. As the machine backs up to start again, the young girl grabs Ulrich and pulls him out of the cabin through the opening left by the windshield. Arriving on the bonnet of the machine, Yumi carries the still unconscious Ulrich on her back. Suddenly, the bulldozer rushes again towards the wall. Yumi takes the momentum and dives towards the ground. She rolls as the bulldozer hits the wall again. Yumi then bends over Ulrich to protect his body from the falling gravel. Finally, the young girl gets up and takes his friend on her back again to flee the metal monster which begins to target them. The second machine also moves forward to block their access to the elevators. The first bulldozer is hot on the heels, there's nowhere to run. Yumi widens her eyes in horror, squeezing Ulrich's hands, which she painfully carries on her back. The impact is imminent. While the machine is going to crush them, it gets stuck between two columns. Yumi, relieved, doesn't waste her time. Still dragging Ulrich on her back, bent over, she progresses to a trapdoor on the ground. Just as the bulldozer manages to free itself, Yumi opens the hatch, slips Ulrich in, and drops in. As the bulldozer is about to run her over, Yumi in turn drops through. Then, Yumi lands softly on the floor of the corridor next to Ulrich, unconscious on the ground. Already on her feet, without even catching her breath, she rushes towards Ulrich. She listens to his breathing. Oh wow, he's still alive. The girl affectionately strokes her friend's cheek. Yumi says, do you really think it's time to sleep? Yumi puts Ulrich on her back and walks along the corridor carrying him.
Oh my god, I love them. Oh, this is a top tier Yumi and Ulrich episode for sure. And also, can we just Yumi Ishiyama is 13, 14 years old here. What an absolute champion.
Yeah.
Literally,
actually,
I could never.
Fucking legend.
Literally. So good. This is I know it's Pick on Yumi week, but also it is Yumi Appreciation Week in tandem because
she does so well. I mean, Pick on Yumi week, yeah, of course, Yumi gets shat on, but at the same time, I've never seen it to be oh, the creators hate Yumi, because she handles herself well here. She handles herself well in Image Problem, and she handles herself well in the Girl of the Dreams. And in Satellite too, so, I mean... Yeah. The girl makes do with what she's got.
She really does. She definitely owns it. Oh, thank you for the script. I love hearing them. It's literally just I want someone to narrate the scripts to me as an audiobook. Oh, so good. So, yeah, we have... where are we up to on the recap versus the script? So Yumi kind of comes out with Ulrich on the upper level of the supercomputer interface room over this kind of weird balance beam looking thing, which is kind of an interesting way into that part of the factory, and I don't think we see anyone accessing that passageway again.
There's a couple of scenes, I think. I can remember a couple of things in season 3, for example, where Ulrich's there watching the secret agent in False Lead do random bullshit.
Yep, I remember. Well, in that case, it's foreshadowing. It's not just a throwaway detail. I love it. Even better. Great little scene here with Jeremy, who goes to help Yumi and Ulrich. Ulrich's still unconscious, and Yumi's kind of tending to him. Oh, they're so sweet. I love it. And I love the Ulrich wump this episode as well.
Yeah, he is the one that gets shat on this episode, far more than Yumi. He does nothing. He can't do anything. Poor guy. But oh well.
Yeah, he's really he has very little going on this episode. He's basically out cold for most of it. Virtualization montage as Yumi heads to Lyoko. Meanwhile, Ard is in a shootout with the Kankulats in between the trees, and suddenly, future flash! We see Yumi falling into the digital sea through a huge pit in the middle of the forest sector. Uh-oh, says Ard, just in time to get devirtualized. Fortunately, Yumi's just arrived. Oh, yeah. Something bad's about to happen. So we have a future flash, which, again, really sad that did not continue onwards through season 2. It's a really cool little narrative device. It kind of adds some tension, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
As an aside, Dianna?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to agree with you on the Future Flash thing, because it really is sad that they didn't continue to include it. I know Jeremy said that he thought it was kind of useless, and part of me agrees because we know what's going to happen. You can't really prevent it, but it would be nice to still have, because then they could at least have some sort of leg up on, a future event on Lyoko and maybe trying to stop it. And then, like, Odd has no powers, so it just sucks.
Yeah, he was really done dirty with this one, for sure.
Yeah.
I also really like the trope of visions where the whole point is that they're, like... I would really like to have seen more of the Lyoko always, like, trying to prevent whatever Odd sees, and then that inevitably leads to it happening anyway. Very much That's So Raven kind of vibes,
Yeah.
but I really like that
The
trope.
thing about, like, fighting destiny only to inadvertently, like, do the actions that lead to the thing that you saw in the first place. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very like Macbeth.
Yes. Exactly like that. As an aside, I also really like how intelligent the monsters can be. Like, seeing them hide behind the trees and having this shootout with Odd is pretty neat. The factory is slowly falling apart, and Yumi is at a significant risk. If the scanners are destroyed, she is on a one-way trip to Lyoko, which is a pretty terrifying thought, honestly. Odd tells Jeremy about his vision. Ulrich wakes up and offers to head to Lyoko as well. Although, as they point out, he's injured, which leads me to... There's a lot of Lyoko lore drops and a lot of kind of interesting bits about virtual reality bodies in this episode. But yeah, so surely you'd think, like, oh, sending him to Lyoko would help with the physical effects, as in, like, you know, kind of put him in a bit of a temporary stasis and prevent him being, like, you know, prevent his headache or whatever, he's, like, his concussion worsening. I mean, I guess the downside of that is when he comes out of the scanners, he'll feel all the physical effects of that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that they saw that as a problem immediately.
I also find it interesting, two things, that A, we don't see any injuries that he has. I mean, we're led to believe that he obviously is injured, he probably is concussed, but they don't animate like any bruise or any, like, his clothes being shredded from glass or anything. And two, this is a spoiler for the books, that's kind of what they did with Aelita in the Chronicles, is France had her go to Lyoko, to my recollection, because she had a gunshot wound.
Oh, really?
And she, like, the whole point of that obviously was that, like you said, Soul, to kind of put her in a stasis.
Damn,
I could be completely wrong. It's been a while since I've read the books and I'd never finished them, but I think that that's, like, a thing that they talk about in the earlier parts of the novels.
I will have to get back to you when I do also finally finish reading the novels. Yes, I'm a fake fan. I've had them. I've read, like, the first one and a half, and just for whatever gosh darn reason not actually finished them, and it's been on my to-do list forever. But yeah, no, that makes sense to me. As far as not animating, like, bruises, etc., I feel like they don't often, and I think, isn't that kind of just a kids' TV staple, that they don't really animate, or at least, like, in the West, they don't animate blood all that often.
Definitely.
I remember in Dragon Ball Z, when that came over from Japan to the West, they did a lot of censorship, and, like, blood was kind of changed to, like, scuff and dirt marks and that kind of thing. And yeah, there was a lot of censorship on that end, so I guess that's kind of my baseline for most animation, because that's what I imprinted on as a child. But yeah, one day maybe we'll get that T-rated CL where we see all the gratuitous injuries. But yeah, I assumed he had a concussion, maybe like a sprain, or, like, you know, something like that, bruised ribs or something, maybe, given how he's holding himself. Speculation. Aelita reaches the location Odd saw in his vision, which is kind of a huge pit in the middle of the forest sector. And meanwhile, Yumi charges a megatank to throw its aim off course, rescuing Aelita, but falling off the edge of the pit in the process, fulfilling Odd's vision exactly. So basically we have this huge, like, kind of crater thing that leads directly down into the digital sea with, like, no bottom to it. Yumi pushes the megatank off, which is a really cool scene, by the way.
Yeah,
again,
it's
Yumi
great.
just being absolute badass. Yumi struggles to hold on to the edge as Aelita enters the tower. We hear Yumi's panic and despair as on Earth the factory crumbles around them. Ulrich races towards Yumi but doesn't reach her in time. She slips and falls into the digital sea, disappearing forever.
Yeah, bit of an L.
Oh, The tension in this is really good. I feel like sometimes the Lyoko tension, it can be like pretty manufactured. You know, it's like Alita walking really slowly, but this one felt like very genuine. Like,
yeah, mainly because they don't show Alita walking really slowly.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
I also think it's interesting that like Jeremy didn't just virtualize Ulrich closer.
That's always been a bit of an arbitrary thing. Yeah, because like, doesn't he later on get a lot more focused with like where he can actually land them? Yeah.
I mean, I know it's for the plot, obviously, but like he knows where they are on the map.
Yeah, but he just he drops Odd in a he drops Odd, Yumi, and Ulrich in the same place. Bit of a
yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Maybe like there was kind of a pre-existing coordinate from when he transferred Odd, and then like he kind of just forgot in the moment to, you know. It's early
that's
days
probably
for him.
it.
But yeah.
Yeah.
While I'm here, I'd also like to mention that you know how like every episode in the script like has its own flash forward, then back to the beginning. Obviously, like the beginning, like flash forward was, you know, Yumi hanging onto the edge of the hole, and then Jeremy being like, Yumi, please hang on, and then like of course Yumi dropping at the end, and then we get to Jean-Pierre talking about how blah 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 blah. Aren't you grateful we spent all this money on your ultra sports equipment or whatever.
Oh wow. And it still didn't improve Yumi's grip strength enough to have her hand able to hold on to the crater, so, you know.
SMH.
That was just a lame joke, sorry. I like that, though. I mean, you know, it kind of makes sense that would be the in media res part. But yeah, no, that's neat. I like the script comparisons. Also, like, I wonder how that felt. Sorry, just to kind of fixate on this temporarily, but I wonder how it feels to just like fall into digital nothingness. Do you think she had like any consciousness at all, like in the digital sea, or like, I don't know. This is just like me trying to conjure headcanons.
I'm also wondering how it felt for her to hang on, like to try and hang on to the edge of the abyss, because I mean we kind of talked about it earlier, the feelings on Lyoko. Like, it sounds like she was feeling very strained, obviously, and she didn't have enough energy to keep holding herself up, but, like, she's virtual.
Yeah.
So the lore probably goes a lot deeper than that. It's just really interesting to speculate on. But Jeremy says something about how he's able to locate her somehow. So I would imagine that she has some sort of consciousness or signature or something kind of similar to France Hopper.
That would make sense, for sure. Yeah. Like, definitely cannot be. We'll talk about this more a little bit later on, but that cannot be a pleasant experience, for sure.
No.
Definitely not.
So,
also,
Yumi's... oh, go on.
Go on. No, you go on, because I have an aside, but we haven't quite talked about it yet.
Okay, for sure. Let me know when we get there. So, Yumi is disappeared into the digital sea. Alita enters the Code Lyoko, and the bulldozers grind to a halt. Jeremy launches a return to the past, but it's too late. Yumi is still gone. The three boys gather in the factory, absolutely in despair. Ulrich blames himself for not being fast enough. There is a solution, Alita says. The one-shot materialization program that can bring back Yumi instead of Alita. Choose Yumi, she says bravely. She's part of your world already. It's okay, I can wait a little longer. Oh, baby, oh, darling. Yeah. Oh, my feels.
Poor girl.
This
was
what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so obviously the correct choice is Yumi because of what Alita says. But the fact that Jeremy even deliberates on it the slightest.
Right? Yes.
Pisses me off.
I don't really see the big issue. Like, he never, like, even, like, tried to protest when Alita suggested it. He just, like, he accepts it. He's not happy about it. I don't think any of them are.
No, he's not. But he was like, I can only make it work, and it'll only work one time for one person, one and only one. And it's like, hello, dumbass. Go with the person who already exists in your world, like your virtual girlfriend says. There's no question it has to be Yumi. Like, the fact that he might have even been, it sucks. I know, he's probably devastated. I can totally understand that. But the fact that he was even probably considering Aelita over Yumi, like, that doesn't... maybe it's just me reading too much into it, but, like, just looking at his expression and his tone when talking about it in this scene, like, he's obviously distraught, but the only answer is Yumi. There's no, like, ifs, ands, or buts. He can't even possibly entertain bringing Aelita to Earth and, like, just leaving Yumi there on Lyoko, and they don't even at this point know if she's still alive.
I think
100%.
he knew that. Like, I'm not sure how to say this, but, like, yeah, I think, like, even if left alone, I think he would have still, like, chosen Yumi over Aelita.
I'm sure
I
he
don't
would
know.
have, but,
I don't.
like,
Maybe.
he's kind
I
of
mean,
a dick.
Like, no, I 100% agree, Diana. I do not think this is Jeremy's best moment at all.
No!
It's... So, we've kind of talked about Jeremy and Yumi having kind of these nice friendship moments in season 1, and this is kind of just veering into, like, if I was a showrunner and Code Lyoko was more serialized, this could have been the start of an arc where, or, like, at least a very, very small, like, arc for a couple of episodes where Yumi's like, hey man, what the fuck? Like, you know, that could have been interesting, but yeah, and also, my other thing I have in my notes, so... Just imagine an AU, an alternate universe scenario, where they did bring Aelita back instead. And then it turns out that the whole virus implanted in her thing comes to light, and it turns out it was all mute, and then Yumi would have died for nothing. Imagine that.
Yeah,
Literally,
I don't, and I don't know how they would have even explained away Yumi's absence either. As it is, they do a shitty job explaining away each other's absences. So, like, for, like, an afternoon or a class period. So, like, to just kind of explain away, oh, Yumi's no longer... There's no way. Like, they couldn't do that. Not without getting the authorities involved.
Yeah. There was a whole can of worms that was about to be opened here, just because Jeremy was thinking with the wrong part of his body. Honestly.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, I personally, like, don't really see, like, I can't, like, see Jeremy as having even, like, I mean, I can see him, like, debating it, but, like, only for a second before, like, telling himself, yeah, it's obviously gotta be Yumi.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think I agree that he ultimately, like, in his heart of hearts knew that. I think there's kind of that pause where he's like, I can only bring one. And I think, like, what I like to headcanon is that when he's saying that, like, kind of the wheels are turning in his brain and he's kind of slowly coming to terms with it, like, as he says it. He's like, oh, this is my shot and it's gone. But he's kind of got to vocalize it in order to, you know, come to grips with the reality of it.
Right, and I like how Aelita is the one to say, choose Yumi, and obviously offers the explanation. But, like, I mean, in my head, too, he's kind of looking to her for confirmation.
Mm-hmm. For
like,
sure.
So, I mean, the right answer is that, obviously. We all know it. But, I mean, I feel like that her saying, choose Yumi, kind of gave him the push to do that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
it's a nice moment all around. It's pretty emotionally weighted, and obviously when you give it a little bit more in-depth analysis as we're doing here, there's a lot to it. I do really like this episode, and I think... Oh, yeah.
Sorry, about this scene, too, can we talk about how, like, when Jeremy is locating her odds in the background, and he's like, it's gonna be okay.
Yes!
Yeah,
and he, like, puts
really
his hand
cute.
on Ulrich's shoulder. I was living for that. So cute. That was such a nice detail. Yeah, I have that in my notes. So nice.
Do you all want me to, like, read the script for this final scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Alright, so, we're in the interior of the lab at night. The heroes are gathered in the control room. Everyone except Yumi. Around them, the walls and ceilings are intact, and silence finally reigns again. Aelita appears on the screen. The three boys are desperate. Jeremy, I never would have believed that would be possible. That one of us... Of the three, Ulrich seems the most affected. Ulrich, it's my fault. If I had been faster, she would be here. Jeremy lowers his head sadly while Aelita speaks. Alita says, "There's a solution. Jeremy knows it." The two others look at him, surprised. Jeremy, Alita's materialization program. It's operational. Alita just has to skip her turn. Odd and Ulrich look at each other, then turn to Jeremy, full of hope. Ulrich, stunned. Can you bring Yumi back? Jeremy raises his head. He is sad. Finally, he looks at the screen on which Alita is. Jeremy, sad. I can materialize a person. Only one. Odd and Ulrich share Jeremy's dilemma. Alita also understands. Alita, it has to be Yumi. She is at home in the real world. Jeremy, very moved, looks at his friend's serious face. The face of the virtual girl splits into a smile. Alita, I can wait, Jeremy. The two teenagers seem to look at each other for a moment, on the verge of tears. Finally, Jeremy approaches his office chair with a determined air, sits down at the keyboard, and begins to press a few keys. Jeremy says, "Good. I must first find Yumi's trace in the digital void." Behind him, Odd and Ulrich look at each other, moved.
Oh, my children, my darling children. Oh, I'm sorry. I should not be this emotional about fictional children
No,
from
it's
a
really
20-year-old show. But here I am. It's so cute.
All right.
I also really like the little bit after this where
Yeah.
Yumi comes out of the scanner and like collapses in Odd and Ulrich's arms. Like the friendship moments in this
Yeah.
episode are peak. And like, you know, the Xana attack is a little kind of, you know, forgettable and meh, but this is also one of the stronger episodes, I think, just because the interactions are all perfectly in character, all have
agreed.
real emotional weight to them, all are very like sweet and genuine and heartfelt, and yeah, just make perfect sense for like who these kids are. I think it's just some of the best
Yeah.
character writing.
Do you want me to read the like? There's not much left of the script. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, send us out the end of the series and
All right.
yeah, go for it.
So after the scene where Jeremy like is like, "Good, I've got to find Yumi," and then Odd and Ulrich are like, "Oh," and then there's like the interior of the scanner's room at night. Ulrich and Odd are waiting, worried around the scanners. Suddenly, one of them lights up. For a while, it opens, and Yumi appears there. Odd and Ulrich run towards the scanner, catching and supporting Yumi, who seems exhausted. Ulrich, "Yumi, how are you?" Odd, "Welcome home." Yumi says, stunned, How did you do that?" Then we have a transition to the interior of the lab at night. Jeremy is alone in front of the screen, on which Alita's image still is there. Jeremy, "I'm happy, and then sad at the same time." Alita says, "Why?" "Now we know materialization works. Just recreate the program." Jeremy, annoyed, I know, but..." "Alita, I trust you, Jeremy. You'll get there." Jeremy nods with a hopeful smile, and Alita disappears from the screen. Finally, Jeremy gets up, puts his hand in his pocket, and walks away silently, looking pensive and sad. Then there's interior underground passage at night. The four friends walk side by side, silently. Discreetly, Odd, Ulrich, and Yumi cast little glances at Jeremy, who, with his head down, seems pensive. No one dares to speak. Yumi puts her arm around Jeremy's shoulders. Ulrich approaches from the other side and does the same. Odd approaches in turn. He takes candy out of his pocket and places it right under Jeremy's nose. "Some candy, Jeremy?" Jeremy immediately stops walking. Scowling, he crashes in front of Odd. Jeremy, "You stole my candy!" Odd,
Great moment.
Odd dons a fake apologetic expression. Odd, "Well, yeah." Then gently mocking, "But you see, I'm giving them back to you." Yumi nudges Jeremy encouragingly. "Come on, take one. Candy can be used for everything, even to heal a broken heart." Jeremy looks at the candy, then a nod, then at the candy again, before smiling tenderly at his friends. Jeremy, "Oh, all right." Jeremy takes the candy and eats it. The four friends resume walking side by side, all hugging each other affectionately.
Oh, it's such a nice ending. Yeah, this is like a pretty solid episode. It's a really cute ending. I know we talked about, you know, just Jeremy and Yumi, and like he possibly maybe considered giving her up for a second, but like, you know, she's chill about it. We love to see it. Yeah, super sweet. Like this is one of my favorite moments for the gang, like as a whole, in the whole series, I think. Does anyone have any final thoughts on that last scene or the episode as a whole?
Cruel dilemma.
No,
No, I think
I
I've said
think it's
everything
interesting
I wanted.
that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, go on, Diana.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's interesting that like the final shot is the factory at daytime, but Yumi had mentioned earlier in the episode, oh, I'd like to get in a nap before class, meaning that this
Yeah.
happened really, really late. So then
I think-
I'm assuming we saw the transition from like that night to that morning.
Who knows?
Well, there was a return to the past, though, right? So,
Right. That's true.
so hang on, let me kind of work this out. So, return to the past would have taken them back to. Yeah, why are they there?
I don't know.
Are they
because
there in the date?
in the script, there's no final image of the factory, be it day or night. And the descriptions of the script say that after the return to the past, it's still night when they're gathered around. So it's...
Maybe they just happened to. Maybe the return to the past dropped them back, and it happened to be at night because they thwarted the attack at night, and it was like a straight 24 hours.
Maybe.
And then obviously, maybe there was no no time to kind of sit around and wait to decide what to do about Yumi, and it was like, oh, we've got to get to the factory straight away. It kind of checks out. I don't think there's any loopholes in logic there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I just thought that it was odd to end it on that versus like ending it how the script has it with the four of them going through the sewers.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. They could have done without that one frame of footage to
Yeah.
fill time. I mean, I guess they had less of Alita walking slowly towards the tower this episode, so maybe they felt like they needed to pad it out. But oh, yeah, no, it's a good one. Does anyone have a rating out of 5 that they're
Oh, let me get up
itching
my
to share?
spreadsheet.
For the episode.
Yeah,
I mean,
what do you think?
4, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm
It's really solid. I mean, I really like it personally. But yeah, probably 4. Nothing
I'm also
less
going
than
to
that.
agree on the 4. Yeah, I think this was a pretty solid 4. It loses points just for the whole like candy on the keyboard thing being like, a little bit of a weak setup, but I do think everything else makes up for it.
Yeah.
Great Yumi and Oleg moments, great Jeremy and Elliot moments, great shipping aside, like them as people, individual moments, like yeah, just overall great moments for everyone, really sweet. What do you think, Diana?
Yeah, I would agree. I really didn't have many issues with this episode other than the whole candy thing and just kind of Jeremy. But I mean, I think that I would also rate it a 4. Overall, it was a good episode. There was a lot of suspense. The attack on Earth had purpose. Everything kind of like linked up together. I didn't feel like the pacing was weird at all. I thought it was overall very good. I don't think it's perfect, but like it was very good compared to some of the other ones that we've talked about so far.
Cough, big
Yeah.
bug, cough.
Yeah.
We're past it now. It's behind us, folks. It's all good. We can move on to a
Well, we've
better,
got
greater
other
future.
episodes coming up.
Well, comparatively, I rated Big Bug a 2.
I also rated a 2.
Yeah, and Quitter rated it 3. So, and now we're all 4 across the board. We're gonna do at the end of the series or at the end of the season for like a season 1 wrap up. We'll talk about like our average ratings and all that. But basically, I've been keeping a spreadsheet of all 3 of us as we go through these episodes and our overall ratings out of 5.
Wow. Can you
And
real quick change my Big Bug rating to 2.5?
Are we allowed to retroactively change ratings? I feel like that's opening a can of worms.
Nah, it's good. It's good.
What's
I'll allow it.
Okay, I changed it to a 2.5.
But yeah, if you're listening at home, let us know what your rating is for this episode. Would love to see if you agree that it's a 4 out of 5. Do you think it's any better, any worse? Let us know. Send us an email or, Discord us. You know where we are. Shall we move on to our post-episode discussion for the week?
Sure. Okay. Well, actually, before that, yeah. Does anyone else have like any random trivia or stats or whatever?
Oh, of course, stats. Let's go through our diverts and our reverts and our whatever else. Hit us. What we got?
Oh, me? Yeah, sure. I mean, I was just asking if anybody
That's you.
Okay, let's see.
It's all you. You're the stats guy.
Well, yeah,
I just
like
make
any
outside of
random
POV.
info. Like, for example, we don't see Sissy at all this episode. I think it's the first.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, you're right. We
I
don't
did notice
see
that,
Jim
actually.
at all either, except for that one weird shot of him sleeping, which was probably reused from Holiday in the Fog.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think actually that kind of adds to the appeal of this episode. It's very insular. It's just like a day in the life. Just to jump ahead on my stats, actually, outside of POV is like basically, there's nothing. There's no impact whatsoever. Nobody knows anything about this happening. No lasting impact on anyone else's lives at Caddock, which, fairly interesting, I guess.
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right.
So what
let's
stats
see.
we got?
Stats. Well, let's see. It's like Yumi and Odd's second it's the second visualization in the forest and the second devisualization in the forest. It's also Ulrich's first visualization in the forest, but he does nothing. So does that really count? As for monsters,
I'd say it does.
let's see. So monsters, Cankrelats. Next time we see them is next episode. So we're not gonna be waiting that long. And next episode, we finally get the ice sector. So that would be
sweet.
nice.
It took that long?
I know. Looking forward to that though when we get there. That'll be neat.
And next time they appear in the forest is episode 13. So that's just in time. And Megatanks. The next episode they appear, after appearing in like 4 out of the first 6 episodes, they next appear in episode 22, which is...
Oh wow, they're taking a long hiatus. This Megatank got owned so hard. Yeah. Yumi Ishiyama made this Megatank go away for a long time.
Yeah, nice. 22's routine, so...
Oh, sweet. Love that one.
And I think that's about it, really.
Sweet. I guess that kind of segues neatly into what I wanted to talk about this week. I don't know how much we've got to chat about here, but yeah, this Pick on Yumi week, which is, as mentioned earlier, kind of a weird cultural staple in the Code Lyoko fandom. Everyone remembers this series of episodes, which is a Cool Dilemma, Image Problem, End of Take, Satellite, and Girl of the Dreams, as being a series where Yumi's victimized to an almost egregious extent. It's a coincidence, I guess, but it's kind of enough of a thing to have stuck in everyone's mind that, like, oh, this is the episodes where Yumi gets her ass kicked. But as me and Quitter mentioned earlier, it's also, like, showcases some of Yumi's badassery in, like, a pretty significant way. Like, she has some of her strongest moments in some of these episodes. Like, this one was a really strong one for her, I think. Yeah, I tried to find out, just as a fun fact, when the whole, like, Pick on Yumi week phrase was brought about. Thank you to our friend Mary, who did some looking around for us. We did not find the first instance of it being mentioned, but we did find some old mentions on the old Lyoko Freak forums from way back in the day. And it was around since, like, at least 2005, possibly even 2003, when the show aired. And also thank you to the Lyoko Frontiers virtual server, the French-speaking Discord server, who kind of confirmed that this is in fact an English-speaking thing, and it's not just like a French thing that migrated over to the English-speaking fandom. Yeah, yeah, interesting, right? Yeah, they were like, yeah, no, that is definitely just a thing that the English fans use. So,
I mean, it makes sense. Like, Pick on Yumi week, like Pick week. There's not a lot of like wordplay in other languages.
Yeah,
well,
I think. Oh.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember. These episodes might have. I'm trying to pick on.
Well, you mean the production, the production date?
I thought so. In season 2 onward, episodes aired like nightly, or like every afternoon, I guess, late afternoon, evening. In season 1. Trying to like Pick on Yumi week. Let me look at the airing order here.
Would it have been a literal week of back-to-back Monday to Friday? It
might have been.
I feel like that would have made it stick in people's minds significantly.
It makes sense as to why they would call it Pick on Yumi week instead of. Let's see, where are we? Cruel Dilemma. When did it air in America?
if you are listening to the podcast and you are one of the fandom olds, then let us know if you do know, if you were there back in the day when this phrase was first conceived.
List of Code Lyoko episodes.
I'm on it right now on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Oh wow, April 26th, April 27th, April 28th, April 29th,
oh my God, it was a week.
April 30th.
It was a week.
It was a week straight. Yeah, and it wasn't like that in France. In France, it was like weekly. Yeah, it was 1 week episode 6, then the next week episode 7. But in the US, they decided to add those 5 episodes for a week straight. Wow, that is actually fascinating.
That is really cool.
Part of it, yeah, and I think it might have been because like they aired so much, like they aired a year later, in the U.S. compared to France, at least for season 1. In season 2, we sometimes got episodes the same time or even a little bit before France, which I didn't know at the time, obviously. Yeah. But according to Wikipedia, that's what it says. And I think that's so interesting. I mean, it makes sense that Pick on Yumi Week is an English-speaking thing and probably a specific U.S. thing because it like all of the episodes aired within the 1 week. Do you remember how it aired? Did you watch it as it was airing, Seoul, in the UK?
I believe so. I have very vague memories of watching it, but it was also on at very weird times. I caught it after school a couple of times, but I also remember specifically waking up at 6 a.m. to watch it before school on Cartoon Network. So yeah, I cannot imagine that I watched it in that particular order. I do remember watching Image Problem just because my sister at the time was like, "What the fuck?" Well, she's still my sister. My little sister was like during the whole scene with Yumi and Jeremy and like take me to the scanning room was like, "What the heck are you watching?" And I had to be like, you know what? I'm not really sure either. I'm gonna have to ask her if she still remembers this because yeah. Anyways. Slight tangent into the Soul backstory there, but yeah, no, I cannot confirm. But I'll check up on that and I'll let you know via Discord.
Yeah, because the only air dates that I saw were for France and the United States. I don't know if
I've got the first airing dates for Spain and randomly Venezuela.
Okay.
Okay, so for the Pick on Yumi week was actually. Also, the 5 episodes were aired out in a week in Spain too, from the 9th to the 13th of August, 2004.
Oh. There you go. Cool. It's neat to kind of look at the patterns in data and understand like how things might have emerged. That's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it also makes sense as to why the French fandom wouldn't refer to this as Pick on Yumi Week because they just had 1 episode a week.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. Neat. I do have some kind of thoughts going into kind of in-universe territory about this whole kind of series of Yumi targeted attacks, if anyone cares to hear them.
Go on.
So this is kind of going into headcanon theory, but headcanon and like, you know, whatever, it's not that deep, but so kind of my point on this was like, what if this whole particular sequence of events was Xana seeing Yumi as much more of a threat than the rest of the group? I mean, besides Jeremy, of course, like Yumi is older, she's more mature, she is obviously a skilled martial artist, and she is definitely like a force to be reckoned with. I can absolutely see this kind of being Xana having a moment of like, oh, this is if I take out this person in particular, then like, you know, maybe that's going to be a big boon to like my, you know, world domination plan or whatever. I also think that like, I can absolutely see this series of events that we're going to be covering being a point for Yumi where she like truly deeply understands early on that this is not a game. You see her messing around and goofing off much less than Odd and Ulrich do through the series. And obviously that's part of her personality. She's more like, more serious, like less goofy or whatever. But I can absolutely see her being affected by all these targeted attacks and being like, oh shit, this is like pretty serious. In a way that Odd and Ulrich don't quite get to experience, or at least like not until they're much deeper into the whole mess that is this fight. I don't know. Those are my thoughts from an in-universe perspective.
No, I mean it makes sense.
Yeah.
It would make sense. Like the week being both, Santa realizing that oh shit. Apart from the little squirt with glasses, the girl's probably like the biggest threat to me, and like doing anything it can in order to stop her one way or the other. And in like at the same time, Pick a Yumi week also being like a realization for Yumi that she really has to take this seriously, and like do what she can do best, really, because otherwise she is going to get absolutely murdered.
For sure. Also, her family is like at ground zero, basically, or not too far from the factory, which does add that extra layer of danger as well. I don't know. I mean, this kind of informs a lot of like the way I think about Yumi's character, that she did have the series of events pretty early on, and yeah, I don't know. I just wondered what you thought about it. So that's my offering for the post-episode discussion this week from an in-universe perspective.
We've also been shown several times that she carries the brain cell of the group, and I think that
Yes.
yeah, I mean, for lack of a better term, but I think that like Xena probably sees that as a threat as well, because she has that sort of mentality where she kind of brings everybody else back down to earth, into reality, and is kind of more focused. Not necessarily more so than Jeremy, but like comparatively, obviously, to Odd and Ulrich, who are goofballs. And I think that Ulrich takes it seriously too, to an extent, during season 1. Through the rest of the series, we'll see that as well, as we get to know the characters better. But Yumi definitely is the only one in the group who really, I think, understands the actual danger that they're in, partially because she's been subjected to all of this bullshit with Xana, but also like she is older. She does have more experience. She lives off campus. She's more of a target because her and her family are right there. She doesn't live at the school with the boys. She has that more methodical thinking mindset that Xana probably thinks is a threat.
Absolutely. From a writing perspective, do we think that Yumi is kind of treated with less dignity by the writers? I know I've said that she has some really good moments here, but I guess from a stats perspective, like, does she get devirtualized significantly more than everyone else? Is she kind of shown in like a less competent light on Lyoko when you kind of look at all the data altogether?
That is a good question. I mean, you guys give your perspective first. I mean, would you compared to like the other Lyoko warriors, or compared to other female characters from other shows of the time?
I hadn't even thought about the second one, so I was definitely thinking along the lines of the former. But if you want to chip in on the latter too, then absolutely go for it. Whichever one you feel most equipped to answer.
I mean, I have to think about this.
No, that's fair. We can definitely kind of open this up to the floor of the general fandom. But yeah, I thought it was worth
What are your thoughts, Sol?
looking at our just to diverge ever so slightly. Our good friend A Queen of Fairies did an analysis of who has the most dialogue in the series, and out of all the Lyoko warriors, and then kind of compares it to another category of like non-Lyoko warrior characters. And Jeremy does have the most speaking lines, which makes a lot of sense because he is the exposition guy with the supercomputer, etc. Yeah. And it is notable, I think, that the two female characters, that being Yumi and Alita, do have like significantly less speaking lines overall than the boys. It's it's just stuff where it's like, just interesting to look at and kind of think about the cultural landscape, like. And I have you can't help but notice, like, there's more men in the writers' room, in the storyboarding room. Like, does that have an impact? Like, I'm not like kind of trying to draw any conclusions here. It's just interesting to put all that data out and then be like, oh hey, and if she's also happens to be the one who kind of is getting her ass kicked all the time, like, yeah. I mean, for me, I see her as like just so competent because I think as a kid, and like especially now as an adult as well, I really focus on like all the stuff she had to deal with and all her good moments, and I kind of just gloss over the bits where she gets like obliterated by mega tanks. Lol.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so if we're talking about compared to the other Lyoko warriors, it is true that Yumi has the most devisualizations in the series, followed somewhat closely by Odd, and then Ulrich trails far behind. Like, the difference between Yumi and Ulrich is more than 10. And, like, the difference between... Well, the difference between Ulrich and Odd is, like, 9. But then again, Ulrich also goes the least into battle, and he's also, like, the most capable, at least, like, in universe, in Lyoko.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do agree that there's probably some level of, like... I don't think the writers, like, actively thought that Yumi and Alita are weaker than Odd and Ulrich. But I do think there could be some, like, innate bias showing through. Because it is true that, like, Odd and Ulrich have more than a fair share of stupidity and incredibly silly devisualizations. But, like, Yumi's are definitely the most memorable, that's for sure. Like, no one will be able to forget the amazing, incredible, world-shattering record of being on Lyoko for 13 seconds total before getting one-shot by a random megatank.
That makes me so sad. Diana's nose then is exactly how I feel about that.
But at the same time, like, the writers definitely made sure to, like, they didn't see Yumi as less competent than Ulrich and Odd. Definitely wouldn't say so. Because, like, she has a lot of badass moments. She generally, like, the vast majority of the time, she handles herself extremely well in Lyoko. Out of everybody's visualizations, she has the highest percentage of the visualizations that aren't her fault or only happen because she's trying to protect someone else, etc., etc. And generally, I'm not sure, but, like, yeah, in Code Lyoko in general, maybe Yumi has different strengths in battle than, like, Ulrich, for example. But, like, Ulrich didn't save Odd from taking a dive into the digital sea with his telekinesis, for example. So
yeah. No, for sure. I think that's a pretty solid analysis with some really good observations. Diana, do you have anything else you want to add? Or Quitter, do you have anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off preemptively.
No, definitely not, like, when talking about Code Lyoko itself.
I just think, well, okay, so going to the devirtualization thing for a second, Aelita obviously is not counted in that because for most of the series, she has to be devirtualized manually. So it would be interesting to see, like, if that were not the case, what those stats would have been, you know? Obviously that's not anything we're ever going to get, but just thinking about it. And then this is just making me want a version of Code Lyoko where they're, like, it's, like, gender swapped.
Yeah, ooh, that'd be interesting.
Like, have the main character be a girl. Like, she's the computer science person. Have her find a boy on Lyoko. Have her be the one to materialize him. Like, you know, like, just gender bent. Gender bent Code Lyoko. Give me that. Like, thinking about this now, like, it would be really cool.
Yeah.
And it would be more fitting with the times, too. You know, we've seen, like, all-female versions of Ghostbusters and stuff, for example. I don't know. I just think that, like, it's... At the time, you know, it was a good show. A lot of these things were male-led. A lot of these positions in the background were held by males. But I think it would be very interesting to see, like, a gender-bent, like, actual show of Code Lyoko.
I am definitely going to add that to my very, very long list of Code Lyoko spin-offs, reboots, etc. that I would love to see at some point. Yeah, no, that's something I'd literally never thought about before. That's neat.
I didn't think about it either until just now.
That's so bizarre. Like, how have we been talking about this show for 20 years and we're still coming up with stuff? Like, that is wild to me. You know? No, for what it's worth, I do actually think that Yumi and Alita, and Sissy, despite all the kind of flipping on her characterization, are actually like pretty solidly written characters, especially for the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, no, I think they're like actually pretty badass portrayals of women and girls in TV.
Yeah,
I
compare
didn't want to
them
come in
to other like. No, actually, never mind. Go on first, Sol, and then I'll...
I was just going to say I didn't want to come in and make any sweeping generalizations about gender or whatever. I was just like, well, while we're talking about Pick on Yumi Week, let's talk about the stats and let's talk about the any influences that might have kind of come into this. And like, who's to say that number of devirtualizations even like is worth measuring as a metric for like character representation or whatever? It might not be. I don't know. There's a lot of very open-ended discussion here. I wasn't expecting us to come to any like black and white conclusions during this talk, but I thought it might be fun to talk about. What are we going to add, Quitter?
No, I was just thinking about like comparing like the competence of Yumi and Aelita in Code Lyoko to like other, you know, early 2000s cartoon female characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't really watched many early 2000s TV shows, so I can't really speak on that.
There was Totally Spies. That was that was totally a thing.
Yep, that came to mind. Totally Spies, which was also originally a French show.
Oh yeah, I heard.
And also had a Yumi lookalike featuring in.
Oh
we'll drop that screenshot in the show notes.
That's right.
Really?
Coincident. Yeah. We will pop this in the Discord in the show notes, but there is a screenshot going around the internet of a Yumi Ishiyama lookalike in Totally Spies, which I believe aired a month before Code Lyoko, or like
it was sometime before
kind
Code Lyoko. Yeah, someone somewhere either on Reddit or in a Discord server mentions like that episode in comparison to when Code Lyoko first aired, and I never caught that. Watching Totally Spies, I don't even know if I saw that episode because like I would just watch it when it was on. I wasn't like, I mean, I liked it a lot, but like I wasn't really like following along with the story, and a lot of their episodes were like episodic. It wasn't really like an overarching plot.
Yeah, for sure. My mind's gone completely blank of other early 2000 shows. I'm not gonna lie, but. So I'm kind of not going to and ah on it because I know I'm not going to be able to bring anything to mind. But like between those two, you know, there were female role models out there that were pretty solid. Yumi Ishiyama especially will always be one of the like inspiring, like formative characters in my youth.
No, fair. She is like super cool.
Yeah, her existence is very important to me.
Yeah, same.
Any final thoughts on stats, etc., etc., or Yumi, or anything? Do we want to get on to some listener mail?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who wants to start?
Dianna, do you want to read any out?
Sure.
I'm also happy to volunteer.
Yeah, I will read one.
Thank you to everyone who has emailed in. We super appreciate it. We love getting the mail. Like, it's kind of really nice to have like a handful of emails to read each week. A very kind of small but dedicated Code Lyoko fandom, and it's always nice to hear from you all. So thank you so much for taking the time. We do really appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna read the one from Daniel Galan.
Yeah.
This actually has a screen cap in it, which is really neat from the episode. Hi, since Yumi had a taste of it in this episode, can we talk about how beautiful Season 1's Digital C is? Genuinely art. In my opinion, that's the only graphic downgrade they made from Season 1 to Season 4. We'll attach a photo evidence so you can see how beautiful it is. I agree, it is beautiful. To be fair, I was also baffled they didn't let us see how she fell into it. I'm not cruel, though, just would have loved to have seen the interaction. And then there's a screen cap which we will insert into the show notes and put on Twitter as well. It's from the episode. It's looking down into the chasm of the digital sea, and it really is quite beautiful. The lighting is great.
I love it.
The email continues here. And it says, also, Aelita could have used 30 seconds of her time to help Yumi not fall into the sea, then deactivate the tower normally, but she kept running. One of those CL mistakes you never understand. The crying, laughing face emoji. That's all from me. Love your work, guys. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. That was a great email. That's really made me chuckle. You're not wrong. Yeah, no, thank you so much.
This is the image, by the way. I just shared it in the Discord chat, and we will post these on Twitter as well and link it in the show notes.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. I definitely agree that we don't actually get to see them fall in, and that is a shame. I wonder what would have been like a little like digital like splash effect, or just kind of a like, I guess, yeah, that would, I don't know, whatever.
I mean, I guess we see like the beam of light effect when a monster falls in, but like we only see that from like the plateau level. We don't see it from like the water level. It would be cool if they had a splash effect in for posterity's sake.
Yeah, for sure. That was just a fully like half-formed thought on the front of my mind, like, ooh, splash. But yeah, no, thank you, Daniel. That was great. Quitter, do you want to read one?
Sure. I'll read Tiffany Boytis. So, hey guys, Tiffany here. Cruel Dilemma was the first episode I saw when it aired on Cabellion in the 2000s. I absolutely loved it. Still one of my favorites. I like the character development of Yuri and Ulrich in this one. This shows how much they care for each other. They both either saved or try to save one another. Can I just mention how Ulrich is carrying Ulrich on her back, but it takes all three boys to carry her in the episode Image Problem? Like, that's sad and yet very feminine power-worthy. Go Yumi. Yumi is, like, definitely, like, the strongest physically. I mean...
She really is.
Like, she breaks, in like, a school record in the sprinting just because.
Oh, iconic.
I'd also like to mention, you guys have talked about the development of Sana in the past episodes. I have my own theory on this. I think that when Franz Hopper created Sana... if Sana ever acted up as starting hurting the world rather than helping, like it was designed to do, Franz would just shut the computer off and turn it back on again. However, now that Aelita is connected to the computer, it can't be turned off, and it's slowly starting to understand this. He's getting stronger and stronger the longer the computer's on. Let me know what you guys think. Always a pleasure listening to you. Your fan, Tiffany. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tiffany. I love that. It's like, so sorry, the first image that came into my head is that like go to horny jail like bonk thing. Basically just the same energy where fans just like, yeah, I'm just gonna switch you off now. Sorry, that's just my brain doing stupid shit.
I mean, it makes sense.
I like that theory though.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, there's nothing to disprove it, and we never really see that much interaction, like, conversation-wise between Franz and Xana, but you must have imagined that they talked. And, yeah, I definitely am not opposed to seeing Franz as kind of, you know, punishing Xana and kind of trying to get it to cooperate that way. It's not out of the question at all. Yeah. I really like that. I think that's a fun interpretation.
Franz is definitely a ruthless guy.
Oh, cannot wait to get into a deep dive of him. It's going to be great.
Just gotta wait for like 40 episodes.
Yeah. Solid theory.
That's so long.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Just gotta get through a lot of middling episodes in order to get to the good stuff.
For sure. Any other thoughts on Tiffany's theory?
I don't think so.
I think that's pretty solid. Like, I'm gonna give that a solid thumbs up. So, thank you for emailing in. Yeah. Do we have time for the Sissy Delmas analysis email? Should we have at it?
I don't see why not.
Cool. Well, this is from Code J-Man. And they write in, hey, this is Code J-Man. Yes, by the way, the first half of my name is in reference to the show because that's how much of a diehard I am. Lol. Same. And something I've been thinking about a lot recently is regarding Sissy's behaviour throughout the entire series. Ah, yes, my favourite topic. The email goes on to say, as we all know, Sissy is looked upon as a bitch due to how she constantly screws with the Lyoko warriors and how she treats her underclassmen, Millie and Tamir. Naturally, all of us viewers are like, what the fuck is her problem? And as you guys pointed out, her ultimate goal is to just be friends with the Lyoko warriors, but the way she goes about trying to get closer with them is all wrong. Why the hell would she think stuff like blackmailing Ulrich with the diary, snitching to Jim about Odd's dog, teasing Yumi for being escorted to and from school by her parents, bullying Aelita for bringing a doll to class, etc. Gosh, that is quite a long list.
There's a really long list. Like,
Sissy's a bitch.
I mean,
God,
she
yeah.
is. She is.
So why would she think that all those things would suddenly make the group want to be friends with her? It made absolutely no sense to me, up until now, that is. And here's why. Now, to anyone from the outside looking in, would assume Sissy to be one of the most popular girls in school due to how highly she portrays herself and her status of being the principal's daughter. But in almost every single appearance Sissy has been in, who has she been hanging around with that's been meaningful to her? You guys would say her and Nicholas, right? But the thing about them is that they're both followers, with one of them being a desperate simp. They're both yes man that follow and comply with every decision she makes, even when they see her decisions as shitty, because neither of them have lives on their own. Plus, I counted a number of times where whenever something bizarre, typically a Xana attack, would happen to Sissy, the surrounding classmates would make fun of her behind her back. Examples being in Zero Gravity Zone, where the other students mocked her for explaining her baton floated away, or in Xana Awakens, where nobody in the stands of her cheerleading practice clapped for her aside from her and Nicholas, on top of some of the passing students roasting her for saying she got attacked by a ball of electricity in that same episode. You might be asking me now, where the hell am I going with all this, and what does this have to do with how she treats the Lyoko warriors? So here's the climax to my overanalysis of her. Sissy, in reality, has no friends. I think you pretty much nailed it.
Harsh but true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because Herb and Nicholas are not her friends. They're her cronies. She's made that very clear. She even, I think, tells them that. She's not nice.
She's really not nice.
I wouldn't want to be friends with her.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry.
Not at all. Not at all. I would definitely watch her from afar for entertainment value, much as the cheerleaders and everyone else seems to do. But yeah, I do think that's a bit of a negative. I'll finish the email in just a moment. But I do think there is a bit of a negative feedback cycle of like someone is mean to Sissy, so she's mean back, and so on and so forth.
No, yeah,
it's
totally.
Yeah, which seems to kind of extend to everyone in the Caddick student body, it seems. But yeah, okay, I'll finish reading Code J-Man's email. She's never experienced genuine kindness, empathy, loyalty, companionship, etc. from anyone her age growing up, which is why she's mentally incapable of approaching Ulrich and gang the right way of wanting to be friends with them, because she doesn't want to come off as desperate for anyone's acceptance, despite the fact that internally she is. She's so socially inept, thanks to her lack of meaningful friendships, to the point where she believes that the only way she gets to get what she wants out of other kids her age is by flaunting about how important she is compared to everyone else, and why others should essentially be on their knees begging for her attention, even if she's viewed as a pest for doing that. That's how lonely she is. That's also why she puts on her fake persona of being the queen at school as a way of hiding her true feelings, because her pride won't allow herself to take pity from other students. Her pseudo-popular status of being the principal's daughter is all she has, and she'll hold on to it as much as she can. If that was to be removed, there's little doubt in my mind that she'd be no more popular than Jeremy was pre-Xana Awakens. If you actually read this whole thing, OMG, thank you so much, and keep up the good work on this podcast. You guys rock. Oh, thank you, Coach J-Man.
Thank you.
I love that. That was awesome. That is like some pretty solid analysis.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's
I do agree.
A lot better than I could have done.
Yeah. I've always thought that, like, Sissy is very interesting because she's got all the characteristics of, like, the head of a group of popular girls. But, like, in reality, she is pretty much friendless. Like, she isn't shown until, like, season 4 to, like, gossip with anyone other than Herb and Nicholas, or really hang out with anyone other than Herb and Nicholas. And, like, the second anyone pays any kind of attention to her, she instantly, like, latches onto them. Like, with Theo, who we'll see a bit later. So I did always find that very, like, that contrast, I always thought it was very interesting about her.
Yeah, it's a fun subversion of the mean girl trope. And I think it is one of the reasons that she is has a lot of depth as a character, because she's pretty awful, but she does have the good sides of her. And, like, you can really, like, as Code J-Man's pointed out, you can draw some, like, pretty solid conclusions from the way she acts. It's not just, like, a one-note mean girl character. Like, there's kind of more to it that you can extrapolate that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I want to go back, and we're probably going to go back to this constantly, to Holiday in the Fog, when she tells Jim that the only reason why she stayed at school was to find out what Jeremy and his group were up to, because she wants to be friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's divulging this as a big thing because it's hard for her to talk about her feelings, and she doesn't know how to be friends with somebody, as evidenced by how shitty she treats Herb and Nicholas and basically everybody else. And I understand the Lyoko warriors also treat her like garbage because of what happens in the prequel, but that's not her fault, and they should understand that, especially because she has no recollection of it anyway due to the return to the past. If she wants to be friends with them, I mean, all she has to do is just act not like a bitch. She just has to be herself, be like a normal person.
Pretty much.
I guess, like, being on the outside of that situation, that's easy to see. But when you have a lot of pride as a teenager, like, that kind of thing can be so difficult to admit. But no, the irony of that is pretty delicious, actually. It's like, it's so easy to make that step, but it's like, oh, actually, is it really, if you're in her shoes, you know? This is a little bit of a tangent, but we do have just a little bit of time. So, one of the reasons I think that Sissy would be so intent on telling the cops, like, about the supercomputer, etc., in Xanadu Awakens is because she is at ground zero. Her family, her father, is at the school. Do you think Yumi would have made a similar decision if she had been in a slightly different circumstance?
Maybe.
She might have been. I think she probably would have. I don't know if she would have actually told her parents what was going on, but I think that she would have heavily wanted to and tried to, because she, like, we really see how deeply she cares about her family throughout the series. I mean, her, family's kind of dysfunctional, which is good. Like, it's good to have glimpses of that in media, because it, like, normalizes and humanizes things like that. But, like, I think she probably would have tried to do the same thing that Sissy did. I don't think she would have succeeded. I think she might have, weighed the pros and cons of it. But I think she would have, at the very least, made an attempt.
Yeah. I just find that parallel between them quite interesting, because it's something that they have in common that the boys don't. And yeah, it's just kind of a neat character note. But no, I agree with that, Dianna. I think that's a pretty solid analysis. And I don't really have anything to add other than, like, 100% agreement. So yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Code J-Man, for that.
Yeah,
really
thank you.
Eloquent analysis. That was awesome. Thank you for writing in. What else do we have here to cover this week? Oh, we do have a random statistic of So podstatus.com wants to let us know that your podcast, A Podcast Without Danger, has good performance in Apple Podcast rankings. Position 23 in the category TV and film, brackets, Hong Kong, close brackets, which is very interesting. I did not know we had any Hong Kong listeners. If you are listening to the podcast, let us know where you're from. I would definitely be curious to know whereabouts you are. I've met one other UK Code Lyoko fan online, literally, like, yesterday. If any of you are out there, like, please tell me where you are, because I feel very alone here. Very, very curious to see where people are listening from, where people are tuning in from. Dianna, do you want to give us the outro? Plug all the things you want to plug?
Sure, I can do the outro. Okay. Thank you all again so much for listening to our podcast here. We have really enjoyed putting it on for you, and we will keep doing so until we reach the end of this series, which is going to be a long time, so stick with us. If you would like to email us like our lovely listeners did today, you can send an email to apodcastwithoutdanger@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Twitter at Code Lyoko Pod. And in our Twitter bio, we have our link tree, which has all of the platforms that we're available on, as well as a permanent invite to our Discord. So if you would like to join our Discord server, keep up with the podcast, make some new friends, share your fan art, share your fanfics, your thoughts, talk to us, we would love to have you. We've built a really great community here. And if you are also listening on a platform that you can rate and review on, please rate and review our podcast. We would really appreciate that, as it would help with the algorithm and being able to grow our community here. And thank you to our friend shookethspeare for naming our podcast. We really couldn't have done this without you. And the next episode that we will talk about is Image Problem, a continuation of Pick on Yumi Week.
Yay! Another really fun episode, in my opinion.
Yeah,
this was the first one that I saw. The Image Problem was the first episode that I ever watched, and I only tuned in like near the very end of it.
Oh wow!
Neat. I love that. I love seeing people's origins for like Code Lyoko.
That's
like,
my origin story.
Love that. That's awesome. All right. Well, looking forward to returning to the past for that one in 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, thank you for listening, everyone, and we will catch you again.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.